Hello, welcome to the Pennsylvania skit on the Whiskey Rebellion. Mason, did you know how important Pennsylvania was in testing the powers of our new nation after the Revolutionary War?
No, I never thought of Pennsylvania as playing an important role in the infancy of our new nation.
I never realized either, but let me tell you what I have discovered based on my school assignment and the research I have conducted.
That sounds very interesting.
I will first tell you about the history of the Whiskey Rebellion that started in Pennsylvania and spread throughout other regions such as the state of Kentucky, the Appalachian region, and then detail why this is important to the history of our state and our new federal government.
Enlighten me.
In order to understand the importance of the Whiskey Rebellion, first let me start with what was going on in Pennsylvania in 1791, just prior to the passing of the Whiskey Excise Act, and how these settlements and influences contributed to Pennsylvania farmers' resistance to paying another tax. Pennsylvania farmers in the western part of our state were upset with what they viewed as unfair restrictions on their free convenience and ability to earn a profit. Pennsylvania farmers felt they did not have access to profit on their grain in territories to the west due to the presence of the hostile Native Americans. Pennsylvania, like many states, remembers the Stamp Act tax imposed under British rule and viewed any tax as an insult on their ability to earn a living. Pennsylvania farmers did not have access to ship their product down the Mississippi River to the Spanish territory in New Orleans. Many Pennsylvanians viewed any tax imposed by the federal government as overstepping of the federal government's powers on the rights of the states. Bless you. Many Pennsylvanians in the western part of the state viewed the eastern residents and the federal government in Philadelphia as rich and light people who were not in touch with everyday Pennsylvania citizens.
I wasn't aware of that. Please tell me more and why this is important to Pennsylvania's history.
First, let me give you a further background behind what was also going on with the new federal government. This will help you understand what prompted the passage of the Whiskey Excise Act from the perspective of our new federal government.
Okay, I'm excited to learn more.
Our new federal government, located in Philadelphia, was strapped with a large amount of debt from the Revolutionary War. There was also a power struggle between the ideals of the Federalists and the Democrat leadership over the role and authority of the federal government versus the rights of the states. The federal government needed to raise revenues to pay our nation's debt and to fund projects for states' development or our new nation's ability to further borrow money would be lost. The federal government generally had four primary methods to raise revenue that are important to understand as further background information leading up to the Whiskey Rebellion. Borrow from foreign nations, sell bonds that would offer interest payments, sell off land to wealthy citizens or foreign investors, pass tax legislation, and collect on these taxes.
That is great background and helps me understand what was happening in Pennsylvania at the time. Now tell me how all this relates to the importance of our state's historical role in our new nation.
Our new federal government passed the Whiskey Excise Act in 1791 that paid a tax on whiskey by the gallon. This tax hurt both distillers of whiskey and the farmers who grew the grain used in the production of whiskey. The tax impacted smaller distillers more severely than larger producers. Since the larger producers could more easily observe a flat tax on their whiskey production, the settlements we previously discussed contributed towards the refusal to pay the tax. The Pennsylvania and federal government did little to collect the tax for the first few years. When the effort to collect the tax was increased, the Pennsylvania distillers and farmers continued to refuse to pay the tax, vowed to break away from our new nation, threatened boldly harm to tax collectors, destroy tax collector John Nimville's home and property in Pittsburgh, angry marches with threat to take over the federal instance rule at Fort Pitt, Secretary of the Treasury Alexander Hampton was a strict supporter of the federal government's authority and convicted President George Washington to send troops to Pennsylvania to put down the rebellion. The show of the force by President Washington's almost 13,000 troops gathered from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, and Virginia was enough to end the rebellion as Washington marched into Bedford County, Pennsylvania. 150 rebels were arrested, 20 rebel leaders were tried in Pennsylvania. Only 2 rebel leaders were convicted, but were later pardoned by the President Washington. In 1800, Thomas Jefferson was elected president and repealed the Whiskey Excise Act.
Wow, that is great information that I never knew. Can you tie all this together to the importance of Pennsylvania's historical role in our new nation?
Yes, the Whiskey Rebellion is important to Pennsylvania's historical role in our new nation because this was the first time a state had challenged the authority of our new federal government. This raised issues about the federal government's authority to enact taxes, collect revenue, and defend itself against preconceived enemies, foreign and domestic. This was also the first time the federal government exercised its power to use force under internal police powers. This demonstrated to the world that our new national government could maintain control and order. The ability of the new federal government to maintain law and order demonstrated on the world stage that our government was strong. This was also important since we needed to continue to borrow money from and deal with foreign nations, both politically and strategy. Pennsylvania's role in the Whiskey Rebellion further reinforced our role in the structure and politics of our new nation. Pennsylvania prompted the first test of the new federal government powers and the rights of our citizens. Both Pennsylvania and our federal government demonstrated to the world the interaction and successful conflict resolution of our new nation's first major international test.